I don't think it's going to be long until that fuse either goes again or it burns out.
When a Bugatti Veyron breaks down, the repair bill can reach hundreds of thousands of pounds. But what if a stuck gearbox was not caused by a major mechanical failure, but by a tiny part worth less than £5? That simple fuse became the unlikely key to saving one of the world's most exclusive supercars from a massive repair disaster. How could a machine known for engineering brilliance be stopped by something so basic? This story reveals a shocking pattern that has owners questioning how many Bugattis were written off too soon. The 300,000-pound gearbox problem. A Bugatti Veyron sitting idle with a broken gearbox is a shocking sight, especially when the repair cost is estimated at a staggering £300,000. The previous owner faced a brutal choice: pay an amount nearly equal to the car's value or walk away. For a vehicle known for being one of the fastest and most advanced production cars ever built, the idea that the gearbox failure could be so costly is almost accepted as fact. The gearbox in the Veyron is no ordinary component. It is a complex dual-clutch system responsible for controlling enormous engine power delivered to all four wheels. This intricate design contributes to the massive repair bill, but it also makes it an intimidating problem for most owners and mechanics alike. When the gearbox stopped engaging, the car refused to move despite the engine running perfectly. The official diagnosis was clear. The gearbox was beyond simple repair and had to be replaced entirely. Bugatti's policy is to replace the entire gearbox unit as a sealed package rather than fixing individual parts inside it. This approach means the price tag is not just about labor or parts, but the unavoidable cost of a brand new gearbox assembly. For some context, the price of a new Bugatti Veyron itself hovers around £1 million. Yet the gearbox alone could cost nearly a third of that. This reality has forced owners into difficult decisions, with some cars simply written off and left to collect dust. The impact of such an expensive repair is profound beyond just the wallet. A car once coveted and cherished suddenly becomes financially unviable. The previous owner of this Veyron ultimately surrendered the vehicle, unable to justify spending hundreds of thousands on a fix. The car was repossessed and later sold at a fraction of its worth because the wider market assumed the costly estimate was accurate and unavoidable. To the outside world, this masterpiece was just a broken supercar doomed to remain motionless. Yet beneath this grim scenario lies a deeper story that challenges every assumption about what it really takes to fix such a machine. Despite how daunting and complex the gearbox issue seemed, this is where Matt Armstrong stepped into the picture. Known for taking on abandoned supercars and proving they can be brought back to life, Matt looked at this Veyron differently. Where others saw a lost cause, he saw a puzzle worth solving. His approach wasn't to dive straight into replacing major components, but to start with the basics. This mindset set the scene for one of the most unexpected automotive fixes in recent memory, though the true details wouldn't be revealed until later. There's a common belief that big, high-price repair bills automatically mean some kind of hard, mechanical failure buried deep inside the car. When the Veyron gearbox stopped working, most people figured it was exactly that expensive, complicated kind of trouble. Yet, expensive does not always mean unfixable. And this situation is basically a great example of how costly failure can sometimes mask a simpler root cause. That idea is what keeps the whole thing interesting, and it's also what Matt came across after he got the car and started his investigation, kind of properly, but with that persistent curiosity. It's also worth noticing the effect on Bugatti owners who rely on the official service network to diagnose and fix problems in the right way. When a technician tells you the repair will be £300,000, the expectation is that the assessment is complete and correct. But what if that expectation quietly falls apart? The damage doesn't stay on one vehicle. It spreads out and shakes confidence in a system that's built on exclusivity, competence, and trust. So this gearbox issue turns into more than a price tag question. It becomes a bigger question about how they arrived at such a steep verdict in the first place. Before revealing the surprising outcome, it's key to understand how Bugatti itself handles these problems and why the official strategy might be part of the challenge. The cost plus complexity creates this little tension between what is necessary and what is avoidable. And yeah, it sets up a sort of confrontation between an independent fixer and a world-famous manufacturer. The story waits right here, in that space, promising more than just a repair tale, but also a look at priorities and assumptions in a more careful way. From the outside, the Veyron's gearbox issue might look pretty simple. Broken, replaceable only at great expense. But as this story moves along, it becomes clear that what seems solid on paper can still hide cracks beneath the surface. Cracks Matt Armstrong would soon expose remarkably. Like, you don't see them until later. The simplicity or the intricacy of a problem often shapes its estimate, and this gearbox problem was painted as the most complex and expensive kind. Still, not every failure that looks expensive is actually what it claims to be. And the next chapter starts peeling back layers of Bugatti's repair philosophy to understand why the cost was so high in the first place. The high replacement cost isn't just about parts, it's deeply tied to Bugatti's approach to repairs, which rarely dives beneath the surface for a diagnosis, setting the stage for a surprising discovery. Bugatti's sealed unit policy. Bugatti's official repair philosophy when it comes to gearboxes is straightforward but costly. Don't fix the gearbox, replace the whole sealed unit. This policy means that when a problem arises, technicians do not open or diagnose individual components inside the transmission. Instead, the entire gearbox is swapped out as one complete, factory-sealed unit. The reasoning behind this approach is to preserve the car's integrity and ensure repairs meet the highest standards, avoiding the risk of damage from improper handling. While this sounds prudent, it also suggests that any issue, no matter how minor, becomes an opportunity for a massive expense. The Veyron's gearbox is exceptionally sophisticated, managing over 1,000 horsepower from a 16-cylinder engine with 4 turbochargers. It has hundreds of parts inside, working together to control power delivery perfectly. Given such complexity, it might seem logical that the manufacturer would want to minimize any chance of error by selling a complete replacement rather than risk fixing a tiny internal part incorrectly. However, this comes with a steep price tag, around £300,000 for a single gearbox. For comparison, most high-performance car transmissions cost only a fraction of that. The sealed unit approach also reduces liability for dealers and service centers. When an entire gearbox is replaced, it comes with a warranty, ensuring the repair meets exact factory standards. But the drawback is that the policy leaves little room for troubleshooting minor faults. Any symptom of failure triggers a full gearbox swap, even if the root cause might be an unrelated or simple issue. This method offers convenience for the manufacturer, but burdens owners with extremely high repair bills and limited options for cheaper fixes. Because of this policy, owners rarely see detailed diagnostics from Bugatti service centers. Instead, they receive an estimate for the full gearbox replacement and are expected to accept it without challenge. If the owner cannot afford or justify the cost, the car often ends up neglected or sold off, declared beyond economic repair. This creates a cycle where real problems might go unnoticed or misdiagnosed, reinforcing the belief that repairing a Bugatti Veyron gearbox is impossible without immense expense. The sealed unit policy also messes with the secondary market. Cars with gearbox issues are often repossessed or moved on at massive discounts, branded as lost causes. Buyers figure the repair costs are already accurate and basically unavoidable, which then drags the vehicle's value down even more. But still, This way of doing things sort of ignores the chance that some faults might actually be simple and cheaper to fix than everyone assumes. In practice, it creates a very blunt situation: pay the sky-high price, or just give up the car entirely. Some skeptics say this policy lines up with Bugatti's financial interests because it pushes replacements that are expensive instead of repairs that are more reasonable. To be fair, the complexity of these cars does, in a broad sense, make high labor and parts costs understandable. Yet critics argue the sealed unit approach kind of skips the deeper diagnostic work that might show a less costly solution. It's basically a business strategy focused on a streamlined service flow and easier warranty handling, but it leaves customers with fewer options than they'd like. On the other side, Bugatti frames it as protection from unskilled or untrained technicians who could cause extra damage if they start opening and poking around inside those intricate gearboxes. The brand's reputation depends on flawless performance, and swapping sealed units is meant to guarantee that level. Still, the catch is a drop in flexibility, plus the potential for needless expenses if the real problem is elsewhere, or not as serious as it first looks. While Bugatti's policy emphasizes caution and quality assurance, it dramatically raises the stakes for owners. And this is where Matt Armstrong's different approach begins to challenge convention. Meet Matt Armstrong, the supercar rescuer. Matt Armstrong is not your typical mechanic. Instead of accepting official repair estimates or writing off broken supercars, he takes on vehicles others have abandoned and tries to prove they can still be saved. From Lamborghini and Ferrari to Porsche and Bugatti, Matt has built a reputation for finding overlooked problems that turn unfixable cars into running machines again. His YouTube channel has become a major part of that reputation. Millions of viewers follow his projects because he does more than simply repair cars. He investigates them. Every build becomes a mystery, with Matt questioning expensive diagnoses, testing each system, and searching for the small details others may have missed. What makes Matt different is his methodical approach. He does not rush to replace the most expensive component. He starts with the basics: checks, tests, diagnostics, and careful observation. That mindset became crucial when he faced the Bugatti Veyron's reported gearbox failure. Instead of treating the £300,000 estimate as final, he asked a simpler question: what if the real problem was somewhere else? Matt's skill is not limited to hands-on mechanical work. He also uses technology and expert help when needed. In the Veyron case, he brought in a specialist to access the car's systems remotely and run diagnostic commands. This allowed them to see how the car's computers responded internally, while Matt checked whether those commands actually produced physical results. That mix of data and real-world testing is what separates his work from blind guesswork. Like where official service routes might just lean toward full part replacement, Matt tends to hunt the actual cause behind the failure. His way of doing things shows that even the most complicated supercars can still be understood using patience, logic, and proper troubleshooting, without going straight to the biggest fix. And honestly, his success has created a bit of tension with the luxury automotive establishment. Manufacturers like Bugatti say these cars are extremely complex and should only be handled through official networks. Their worries are usually safety, quality control, and brand protection. But Matt's results, they kind of shake that stance. He's shown that independent mechanics, if they are careful and properly skilled, can solve issues official channels may just not even notice or bother to dig into. That's also why his work doesn't stay only with car enthusiasts. It hits anyone who feels annoyed by repair systems that seem overly expensive, locked off, or kind of unwilling to question their own conclusions. Matt is more like a different approach, built on curiosity, openness, and not accepting that high cost automatically equals high accuracy. In the end, Matt Armstrong has turned into a symbol for independent problem-solving in the supercar world. His story isn't only about fixing expensive cars, It's also about challenging assumptions, exposing inefficiencies, and proving that sometimes the answer isn't sitting inside a massive replacement bill, but in some tiny detail everyone else overlooked. Having met the man who refuses to accept the expensive status quo, the search for the Veyron's true problem begins, one that takes us from complex gearboxes to something surprisingly simple. Diagnosing beyond the obvious. When Matt Armstrong began reviving the immobile Bugatti Veyron, he refused to accept the £300,000 repair estimate at face value. Instead of assuming the gearbox was destroyed, he started with diagnostics, bringing in Ricky from RE Performance to access the car's electronic systems remotely. Using advanced diagnostic tools, they could communicate with the Veyron's sensors and components in real time. The first warning sign came when they commanded the secondary air pump to activate. The computer sent the signal, but nothing happened. Then they tested the gearbox pressure pump, a critical part responsible for building hydraulic pressure so the gears can engage. The software suggested the pump was working normally, but in reality there was no sound, no vibration, and no pressure building. That mismatch was important. It meant the computer believed the command had been completed, but the physical component was not responding. This kind of fault can be misleading. It may look like a major mechanical failure, but it can also point to something simpler: a bad sensor, a broken wire, or a lost power supply. Matt understood that relying only on diagnostic codes was not enough. On a car this complex, the computer can report normal behavior, while a basic electrical fault prevents the system from actually working. That was when the whole investigation kind of moved from software to the fuse box. A blown fuse is, in many ways, one of the most straightforward causes of power loss. But it is also one of the easiest things to miss, especially when everyone is staring at costly components and thinking the answer must be complicated. Even a Bugatti Veyron, for all its million-pound engineering, still relies on ordinary fuses to keep its circuits protected. Matt started checking the fuses manually, one by one, even without a diagram. Most of them looked normal, but then he hit the breakthrough. One fuse was fully blown, melted, and basically unusable. That specific fuse ran the power circuit for the gearbox pressure pump, the system that actually stops the car from moving when something goes wrong. Once it was found, the questions got serious. If this fuse was linked directly to the problem, how on earth had it not shown up during the official diagnosis? And there was more. The fuse wasn't even the right type. Somehow, someone had fitted a non-standard 40-amp mini fuse, like a previous attempt to push the circuit back into working mode rather than dealing with the real root of the issue. That small burnt fuse changed the entire storyline. What looked like an impossible gearbox failure turned out to be an electrical fault hiding in plain view. By mixing advanced diagnostics with simple, hands-on checks, Matt showed that sometimes the real solution isn't deep inside the most expensive part. Sometimes it's just sitting there quietly in the fuse box. With the fault finally tracked down to a tiny, overlooked component, the next chapter reveals how one simple fuse changed everything for a car considered lost beyond repair. The fuse that changed everything. The fuse that brought the Bugatti Veyron back to life was more than a small piece of plastic and metal. It became the detail that completely changed the story. What had been presented as a £300,000 gearbox failure turned out to be linked to one of the cheapest parts in the car. When Matt removed the burnt fuse, it revealed that the gearbox pressure pump circuit had not been properly protected for some time. The alarming part was how the problem had developed. The original fuse had reportedly blown more than once. But instead of finding out why the circuit was drawing too much current, someone increased the fuse rating. It went from the correct 20-amp fuse to 30 amps, and eventually to an improper 40-amp mini fuse. Each larger fuse lasted longer, but it did not fix the real problem. It only hid it. That shortcut is dangerous because a fuse is supposed to protect the circuit. When too much current flows, the fuse blows before the wiring or components can overheat. But when the fuse rating is too high, that protection is weakened or lost. Instead of stopping the fault, the oversized fuse allows the problem to continue until something more serious fails. In this case, the failed fuse cut power to the gearbox pressure pump. Without that pump, the gearbox could not build the pressure it needed to operate. That made the car appear completely immobilized, as if the transmission itself had suffered a major failure. But when Matt and his team manually supplied power to the pump circuit, the pump came back to life. That was the breakthrough. It proved the pump itself still worked, and that the issue was not a destroyed gearbox. It was an electrical supply problem. Once the proper 20-amp fuse was installed, the pump built pressure, reached the correct level, and shut off exactly as designed. Then came the moment that changed everything. Matt was able to shift the Veyron out of park and cycle through reverse, neutral, and drive. The car responded. Further testing showed the gearbox working under load, with all 4 wheels spinning properly. The supposed 6-figure failure had been solved by a fuse costing less than £5. This discovery raised serious questions about Bugatti's official repair process. If such a basic component could be overlooked, how many other expensive repairs begin with missed simple checks? The sealed unit replacement policy may protect brand standards, but it can also discourage deeper diagnostics. In the end, this tiny fuse became the gatekeeper between a dead hypercar and a working masterpiece. It proved that even the most advanced machines still depend on basic electrical logic. More than a repair, it was a statement. Sometimes, the smallest part can expose the biggest flaw in the system. From this simple component sprang a challenge to industry conventions and an invitation to rethink the true cost of luxury car repairs, setting the stage for a broader discussion about the financial and reputational consequences that follow. Risks of bypassing safety. The story of the blown fuse in the Bugatti Veyron is not just about a cheap part causing an expensive problem. It also reveals a dangerous shortcut that can turn a small electrical fault into a serious failure. When the smaller fuses kept blowing, someone reportedly replaced them with larger ones to keep the circuit running. That may sound like a quick solution, but it bypasses the exact protection the fuse was designed to provide. A fuse is a safety device. Its job is to break the circuit when too much current flows through it. This protects the wiring, electronic components, and surrounding systems from overheating or burning out. But when a higher-rated fuse is installed without solving the reason the original fuse failed, the circuit stays active while the danger remains hidden. In the Veyron's case, this meant a critical system no longer had proper protection. Instead of identifying why the circuit was overloaded, the larger fuse allowed the issue to continue until the fuse finally burned out completely. Once that happened, the gearbox pressure pump stopped working, and the car was immobilized. What looked like a catastrophic gearbox failure may have started with a bad decision around a simple safety part. The risks of this kind of shortcut are serious. Overloaded wiring can melt insulation, damage control modules, cause short circuits, or even trigger electrical fires. In a car as complex and tightly packaged as a Bugatti Veyron, one small electrical mistake can spread into multiple expensive systems. A fuse may be small, but its role is massive. What makes this case even more concerning is that it happened in a hypercar, where safety, performance, and precision should be treated with the highest standards. Owners expect expert workmanship, not temporary answers that create bigger risks later. Whether the misunderstanding came from pressure, poor troubleshooting, or just a lack of attention, the result was the same. A simple fault was allowed to grow into a major breakdown. This also exposes a wider issue in repair culture. Sometimes the focus becomes getting the car working fast, instead of asking why the fault happened in the first place. But swapping a fuse with a stronger one without checking the root cause is like muting an alarm while the danger is still present. The real lesson, really, is that quick fixes can become expensive, unsafe, and outright misleading. Proper diagnostics matter, especially on high-value machines where every part is linked to something critical, even if it seems unrelated. In the end, this fuse failure is a reminder that even million-pound hypercars still rely on basic mechanical and electrical common sense. Ignoring safety protocols can turn a minor glitch into a multi-hundred-thousand-pound disaster. Beyond the immediate dangers of bypassing safety protocols, this cheap fuse's failure has far-reaching implications for Bugatti's brand and the trust of its owners, making the financial and reputational stakes even higher. The financial and reputation impact. The revelation that a 5-pound fuse caused what looked like a 300,000-pound gearbox failure sent shockwaves through the luxury car world. For Bugatti owners, this was not just a strange repair story. It challenged the trust they place in official service networks, where every diagnosis is expected to be precise, careful, and worthy of the brand's reputation. Financially, the impact can be devastating. When an owner is told their Veyron needs a 300,000-pound gearbox replacement, many may see no realistic path forward. Some cars could be parked indefinitely, sold cheaply, or treated as financially impossible to repair. In this case, the Veyron was reportedly repossessed and sold far below its potential value because the market believed the gearbox had failed. That is what makes the 5-pound fuse so important. It suggests that a simple fault can be mistaken for a catastrophic failure when repair policies favor full replacement over detailed investigation. Bugatti's sealed gearbox approach may protect quality control, safety, and liability, but it also leaves little room for step-by-step diagnostics. Owners are pushed toward the most expensive solution before every simpler possibility is fully explored. Matt Armstrong's success pretty much exposes that gap. After already challenging the repair story around a Chiron, his work on the Veyron made the whole issue feel less like a one-off mistake and more like a recurring thing worth questioning. It kinda raises doubts about whether official systems are always built for problem-solving or if, at times, they lean toward procedure more than real practicality. The damage also reaches Bugatti's reputation. Luxury brands live on prestige, exclusivity, and client confidence. People spending millions don't just want speed and beauty, they also want aftercare that feels sincere, detailed, and sharp. When a tiny fuse becomes the difference between a working hypercar and a 6-figure repair bill, that confidence starts to crack. Even the resale and insurance markets get dragged into it. If buyers worry that small hidden faults could be treated as major failures, values become less predictable. Then cars might end up sitting, trade for less than they should, or turn into riskier investments overall. On a more personal level, this story hurts the joy of ownership. A Bugatti should stand for passion, engineering, and achievement, not the worry of one overlooked component. And since online communities are watching closely, manufacturers face increasing pressure to be more transparent. In the end, it's bigger than one fuse. It's basically a warning about trust, cost, and accountability inside the hypercar servicing world. With financial losses and trust on the line, the next chapter asks what lessons can be drawn and how the industry might change to prevent similar cases in the future. Lessons and wider questions. The story of the Bugatti Veyron's 300,000-pound gearbox fix being traced back to a 5-pound fuse raises a bigger question about luxury car repairs. If something so simple could be missed on one of the world's most famous hypercars, how many other owners have faced massive repair estimates for problems that could have been solved with basic diagnostics? One major lesson is that expensive cars do not always have expensive faults. Because Bugatti treats certain components, like the gearbox, as sealed units, the official solution often becomes full replacement rather than deeper investigation. That policy may protect quality, safety, and brand standards, but it can also turn a minor issue into a financial nightmare. This is where independent specialists become important. Matt Armstrong's work on both a Chiron and a Veyron showed how patience, skill, and resourcefulness can reveal problems that official service routes may overlook. His success challenges the idea that only authorized workshops can properly understand these machines. Still, the issue is not really one-sided. Manufacturers worry about liability, warranty risks, and repair standards. A badly repaired hypercar could be dangerous and damaging to the brand. But when rigid policies discourage basic troubleshooting, owners start asking if the system always serves them fairly. Like actually fairly, not only on paper. And the impact goes beyond just one car. Inflated repair bills can hurt resale values, leave rare vehicles unused, and make owners hesitant to drive them. A car worth millions can suddenly become a garage ornament because of fear, cost, or a simple misdiagnosis that snowballs. This story also shows, in a way you can feel, how online communities are shifting the automotive world. YouTube, independent mechanics, and shared knowledge are bringing more transparency to repairs that used to be hidden behind official service networks. In the end, the 5-pound fuse versus the 300,000-pound gearbox is more than a shocking repair tale. It's a reminder that even the rarest supercars still need a simple, careful, logical check before anyone assumes the worst. The Bugatti Veyron, fixed by a 5-pound fuse, challenges everything we believe about luxury car repairs. It proves that sometimes the smallest parts can solve the biggest problems. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more surprising automotive truths and unbelievable fixes. And before you go, watch the next video shown on your screen, because the next repair story might be even more shocking than this one.